Theology and Spiritual Formation class. I have wonderful students in this class. It's like the best class, right? Right? And really, it's a wonderful time together. And I'm going to let the students introduce themselves to you all in a moment. But let's start with each of you. Just give us your name, where you have served, and where you're living right now, and kind of what next.
Yeah, so I'm Rachel Long. My husband and I served in Hungary for 5 years. I also grew up as a missionary's kid in Belgium, so a lot of time in Europe. Currently, we are in the States right now, transitioning as we are moving to Slovenia next year.
Okay.
Yeah, my name is Sofia Romero. I'm from Colombia. I was born and raised there. And then later I'll move to Oklahoma, to Southwestern, to do my bachelor's in psychology. And then after that, I've served in different nonprofits with women that have suffered sexual assault, domestic violence, also at a homeless shelter. But now I'm working with Awakening.
Thank you.
Yeah. My name's Tanner Brady. I am from the good state of Alabama. 22 years old. I originally went to Southwestern Christian, graduated in May of this past year, and have been partnered with the Awakening since 2023, and currently am fundraising to move to Hungary, and Lord willing, we'll be there next year.
Thank you.
I'm Adam Presley. I grew up in the UK in a small country called Wales. I moved back to the States in 2014 and joined the Awakening, went to Emmanuel College. I've been to a lot of countries, but most recently I've been fundraising to go to Hungary as a missionary for the foreseeable future.
Okay, good. Well, just quickly, I want us to go around the room. Each of you introduce yourself. Just give name, where you're from, what your major is, and let's do it quick. So we'll start here.
My name is Evelyn. I'm also from Alabama, and I'm majoring in early elementary education and special education.
Annalisa, I'm from South Carolina, and I'm a Christian Ministries major.
I'm Candace. I'm from here, Franklin County. I'm an English major and a Christian Ministries minor.
I'm Arlie. I'm a psychology major, and I'm from Berea, Georgia.
I'm Robbie. I'm from San Diego, California, and I'm a business major with a biblical studies minor.
I'm Aiden. I'm a psychology major, and I'm from Florida.
My name is Makai. I'm a general studies major, and I'm from Habersham County, about an hour northeast of here.
My name is Phoenix. I'm from Georgia, and my major is in general ed.
My name is Anna. I'm studying criminal justice, and I'm from Hart County, Georgia.
My name is Helena. I'm a bio pre-med major, and I'm from around here.
My name is Jayla. I'm a psych major, biblical studies minor, and I'm from Atlanta.
I'm Jeremiah. My major is undecided, but I'm minoring in Christian Ministries, and I'm from Maryland.
My name is Tyler. I'm a business major, and I'm from Gunnersville, Alabama.
Hi, I'm Elijah. From California. I'm majoring in psychology.
I'm Desi. I'm from Georgia, and my major is criminal justice and a psych minor.
I'm Emily. I'm from Henry County, so like the Atlanta Mississippi Bay area, and then my major is psychology.
Okay, thank you. And they're wonderful students here. International student is not here today, so sorry you didn't get a chance to meet her. Well, let's start with if you could kind of speak back into your life when you were this age, at this season of life. What advice would you give to yourself? And we'll start here and go in that same order.
Yeah, it was further removed for me than some of them. I graduated in 2020 and everything, so it's been a few more years for me. I think one thing that I've been pondering on recently that I wish I would have told my younger self was that it's okay to not know everything, and it's okay to admit that. I think when you're younger, and especially I grew up in a ministry family, and my dad is a pastor, that I felt like I had to know all the answers. I had to know all the answers in the Bible or all the answers ever in the world and different things, and it's completely okay, and it's not a weakness to say, actually, what do you mean by that? Or can you explain that to me? Or can you just tell me what you're trying to say or what that means. And I think when you're younger, you just want to know, or you want people to think that you know that. But a lot of times you actually can learn so much more. And I think people will, in a way, will respect you more if you know you're not gonna just like pretend to know what they're saying, but to actually be like, no, can you actually explain that to me? And can you help me understand what you're trying to say, or this concept? And I'm trying to do that more as I get older, to just simply be like, can you explain that to me? Like, I don't understand, can you help me with that? So, yeah.
That's good. For me, I think it'll be like being present. I think most of us, like, we see college as a transitional season, like we're going from high school to adulthood. And we're like, oftentimes we're looking forward, like, okay, what are we gonna do next? Like, what are we gonna do like after we graduate? Like, what are we gonna do? I don't know, like for our internship. And we're not being present in the season where the Lord has us, which is a preparation process, a preparation season. That those are like so important. And with that, I would also say like never losing, having awe of God, like being in awe of God, because most of us, like, we grow with the privilege of knowing God and being Christian and like being like in all these like Christian leadership positions, but the truth is that it is such a privilege to know Him and to be able to just partner with Him in what He's doing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of on the same wavelength. I'm not a year out, so it's like I'm still pondering a lot on things I could have done differently. But I think right now what I've been realizing, specifically about my 2 years on campus, was I wish I would have learned a better job of saying yes to the things I needed to say yes to, and like no to the things that I needed to say no to. Like, there's always going to be opportunity, ample opportunity, if you make yourself available. But one of the things I did early on was I started equating how much I did with like my success. So like if I was committed to every single thing, then I felt like I was being successful, and there was success in some of the things that I was doing, but it was taking away from a lot of the opportunity to be present. I could still be present, but just not to the same degree if I had like prayerfully and by wisdom considered, what do I need to give my yes to, and what can be for someone else? Because someone else can serve something better than me. I don't have to say yes to everything. So that's one that, looking back, if I could have told my younger self, I wish going in, and even there, I would have done a better job of realizing that, and also delegating, like on a self level, to others to empower them to be able to do that.
I like it, thank you.
I'm gonna say something cliche, which is, I wish I had a better understanding about listening to, like, your elders, your mentors, your superiors, because every generation, especially young people, we have this habit of like dismissing what people older than us say, because we're like, well, they're out of touch. They're like, they don't get what's going on. They say something that's like, that like ages them, and we're like, okay, they don't get it. And so we dismiss what they say. But what I've learned, and I wish I had this perspective early on, was the thing we're actually witnessing is that people who are older than us have seen the patterns. They've seen, everything comes back around. And so they see the patterns of what they've seen in the past. And what we don't understand is that they don't get wrapped up in the semantics. They don't understand the semantics of what's going on. We see that as they don't get what's going on. They're out of touch. But actually, they're seeing the meta picture. They're not seeing the little details of like the politics. They just see the big picture of how things are changing. And if we can learn to appreciate that, even if we don't get it and we feel like they're out of touch, or we feel like they don't understand what's going on, and genuinely take into account what they say, we would save ourselves a lot of headache, because they've seen it all before. And I'm learning that as I'm getting closer to 30. Unfortunately, I'm becoming that person where I'm seeing patterns and I feel old. But yeah, listen to the people that are older than you, because even though it feels like they're out of touch, they've seen a lot more than us, and everything just repeats itself.
Very good, thank you. Well, I have a lot more questions, but I'm gonna give the students time to ask, so who would like to ask the first question?
Miss Rachel, what is it like being in ministry in Europe? Because when you were on stage and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was really like a thing. Like I know people are like, oh, it's so hard to preach in India and Haiti and wherever else, blah 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 blah. It's like I thought they were fine over there. So what is like their problem in Europe and like what's it like for people there, like in regards to God and Christianity?
That is a great question. I'm very passionate about this. So Europe, I think, oftentimes gets disregarded because it is modern. We have a lot of, modern luxuries. It's still mostly westernized, very similar to the States. And so we kind of disregard it as a need for ministry in Europe because, if it's similar to the States as where it looks like or what we see in the movies and on TV shows, then why would we need to send missionaries? Why would we need to have focus there? But there's so much work that needs to happen within Europe, both in the West and in the East, which are two very different worlds. When you look at Eastern Europe versus Western Europe, and on all the different pockets with that as well, when you talk about like the Balkans and Scandinavia and different places like that, and all the subcultures. Some of the challenges, that's one of the challenges, is that it just gets overlooked. And so with that, oftentimes the church overlooks sending support, whether it being financial support, whether it being missionary support, whether it being just encouragement of some kind. There's just not a lot of support that we feel in Europe as the missionaries and as the pastors and leaders. A lot of times that support does go to Africa or South America or to Asia, but oftentimes Europe doesn't receive the same amount of support and understanding or encouragement and compassion maybe the way others do. And it is difficult being a woman in ministry at times in Europe. Europe prides itself in being liberal and being progressive, but the church is still lagging in that way. And so it may be progressive for the non-believers, but then the actual believers are maybe still just a little bit behind. And they're still taking a while to maybe catch up on allowing anyone. And that goes for gender, it goes for age, it goes for nationalities and race, it goes for everything. Like they're still at times just a little bit behind, and we're trying to just get them caught up a little bit. Yeah, do you have a question?
Yeah, so like kind of building off of what you said, like with it being so progressive in like the liberal way, like have you ever like gone and like tried to help somebody, I guess? I don't know how to word it, but like have they ever been like dismissive to you? Like have they ever been rude to you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, like yes, but I don't always view it as them being rude because they just don't understand. And I think coming into it as like with the level of compassion and just understanding that there's a lack of understanding. And so I don't always view it as like rudeness. I just view it as there's someone with their guard up and they feel maybe insecure, or they feel like they just can't let those guards and those walls down. And so I don't view it with like, oh, they're talking back to me, or they're calling me names, or they're whatever. I view it as like, this is a hurt person with some guards up, especially because a lot of the countries that I've been to and worked in are Catholic countries that there's just a difficulty level with the Catholic Church and individuals. And so with a lot of just the background of the Catholic Church, and there's a difference between Catholicism and Protestant, and not everyone understands that. So when they think Catholic, they think, oh, we're all Christians. There is a difference with that, but not a lot of people understand that. And so already there's a guard up. So I don't see it as this person is being rude to me and offending me. I just see it as this is a really hurt person that has probably gone through some difficult times in life and have a difficult understanding of God and the church.
I like that answer, and it can apply to so many situations that we all face. Instead of attacking back when we are hurt by someone, when people respond to us in a particular way, instead of us playing that game and fighting back, let's just play a totally different game. Let's go a totally different route and view them as the hurt ones, not just as the one that hurt us. And that's healthy. Good question, good response.
Yeah.
Okay, who's next?
So do most people speak English, or did you have to learn other languages to be able to communicate with them?
It depends on where you're at in Europe. If we're talking about Europe as a whole, that varies per country. And so in Belgium, where I grew up, we have 3 national languages. We have Dutch, French, and German. We lived in a Dutch-speaking area, so my second language is Dutch. I went to Dutch school when I was younger. Now that I've moved away, though, my Dutch isn't as good as it used to be. But when I get nervous or when I'm upset, I speak more in Dutch. And my husband's had to learn a little bit of Dutch too, because when I'm overwhelmed or upset, I can't always give English words. And so even when I'm nervous and stuff, like I'll think of the Dutch word instead of the English word. But in certain places, like in downtown area or in the capital cities, they will speak English. And you could go and study at universities in English. In Hungary, that was very different. And so if you were in the capital city of Budapest, you can find a lot of English there, but in the surrounding areas, there's very little English. It's mostly Hungarian. And so we did have to learn some Hungarian. But because we were also Americans teaching English at the schools there, they wanted to learn English. And because of us being English teachers, we weren't always forced to speak Hungarian or have to learn as much as maybe other missionaries. But it just varies on where you go. So, and there's a lot of times where being an American and speaking English is a benefit, like teaching at the schools in Hungary. And then there are times where it's like, you just have to learn the language. And really wherever you go as a missionary, you need to just learn at least a little bit of the language and put in some of that effort so you can communicate in their heart language.
Okay, well, let's hear a little bit of it.
Of what? Of that, not of Hungarian, but of Dutch. Ik heet Rachel. Ik kom uit België, maar ik woon in Florida. I'm trying to think, because I was on English now. Yeah. What will you make to zeggen? What do you want me to say?
I think you just said it. That was
Okay,
good.
very good. Yeah. Yeah.
And how many languages do you know?
I can understand Portuguese and Italian, but I only speak Spanish and English.
But your Spanish and English is a lot better than my English and Dutch. She's very good.
And you guys?
Hola.
That's all he knows.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to ask a question, and then you guys be ready for your next one. In spiritual formation, we learned the spiritual disciplines, a variety of spiritual disciplines of many different types of prayer. My argument is all of the disciplines are forms of prayer. Worship, Bible study, it's all communicating with God in different ways. And as we study the disciplines, though, I emphasize that I want us not to see this as religious duty, but divine romance. And so as we are practicing the different disciplines, all of this is a part of this conversation with God in different ways. So I want each of you, and let's start over at that end and we'll come back this direction. Each of you tell us 1 or 2 spiritual disciplines that have kind of helped you grow closer to God and endure your spiritual journey.
I'll say one that I have been convicted by, and I find it interesting, is like we're told to remain in constant prayer. I felt convicted by the amount of time that I was distracted by things, and so I took that to heart, and I intentionally, when I have lulls of time, if it's sitting in the car or sitting here or in church or just wherever, and I could easily pull my phone out, or if I'm in the bathroom or seriously, wherever, I intentionally purposefully will not pull out anything that takes my attention, that is entertaining, and I'll just sit. And 90% of the time it's silence. But even in that silence, I feel myself growing closer to him because it's sacrificial. My other one is, you said two? My other one is that I always wake up, the first thing I do when I wake up is prayer. And I know a lot of people like to spend an hour in prayer. I don't spend that long. I probably spend 20 minutes in prayer in the morning, and I read a scripture, and then I end the day with the exact same thing. And I read a scripture because I want the first and last thing I do during the day to be focusing my attention on him. And that might sound a little bit religious, but it's another sacrificial thing because I will spend more time with him in constant prayer throughout the day in different ways.
I like it. Thank you.
I think as of recently, one of the ones that I've been taking on more has been like journaling. You know, and I in the past I've had a tendency to like journal notes or, you know, just things you hear that you want to remember, because if I don't, then it'll probably go in one ear and out the other. But really have been trying to journal like more of my daily thoughts. And like, you know, there are times I can't do it like right then, but like taking an assessment, and not every day, but trying to get better about, okay, how did I feel at this moment? Why, or if I like fell short in an area, like why did I like mouth off to that person and I shouldn't have? And like taking that to like something like a journal. And it's one of those things that has allowed me to get it like from up here and like another form of like actually seeing it and processing it and taking it to remember, but also like in that, I think taking it to the Lord and not just letting it just sit in a journal, but like, okay, here is what I did wrong, journaling, then how can I make that better next time? So I think journaling has been a big one as of lately, and probably fasting, honestly. In like recent weeks and months, I've kind of like realized that I haven't done it to the level that like I want to see myself at. It's in the past, it's been more of like a religious thing that I just do because I know I have to, or I know I'm supposed to. But I really have been learning like it's like joyful to actually depend on something that's like not myself. You know, and it actually, there's a reward for it that I won't receive if I don't partake in it. But also at the end of the day realize that it's like, not that I glory in like the fact that I did it because it's the Lord that sustained me, but it's like I can have my body pushed to like withhold from food for, you know, a day or 2 days and like see the Lord fulfill me in that. So I think that's been another one that's like helped me draw closer and depend.
What about you?
So my favorite ones are journaling and being in silence and solitude. I consider myself an introvert, and I process internally. So for me, it's easier to write all of my thoughts and write all of my prayers to the Lord, and that helps me a lot to just like process everything with Him instead of like I don't know, like maybe like going out to like to friends and venting or however you call it, like you use a word. And I enjoy like every time I wake up, just like spending time with the Lord and kind of like the exercise that you just did. So just like breathe in and out and thank Jesus for the day. But one that the Lord has been like challenging me lately is to be in community, because I am so used to be an introvert that it caused me to like like go out and be with people, like go out and like share with others, and so I feel like has been a challenge that I have been like disciplining myself to put myself out there and just enjoy time in community and sharing about Jesus.
Good. What are 2 disciplines for you?
2 that came to mind, you guys have already mentioned it, but the first one, and I don't mind sharing this, the first one is fasting, and that's something that God has been working on me for the last several years. And I don't mind sharing this part. I know this may be sensitive for some people, but I struggled with an eating disorder as a teenager for years and was really bound to that. And so now being healed from a lot of that and being an adult and being in a healthier place, I felt like God was kind of asking me to go back to fasting, not to go back to where I was as a teenager, but to practice the spiritual discipline of fasting with intentionality. And so, and that's something that I do a few times a year, where I will take intentional time to spiritually, biblically fast. And that was a healing thing for me, and I've heard that's been healing for other people, maybe in a similar situation, that it's not the same practice as it was before, but I enjoy the being so intentional at that time to just take time, if it's for a day or for 2 days or 3, whatever it may be, to just spend time being very intentional with fasting. And yeah, you get, there's a reward, I would say, after it, like the renewed and, even though you're not putting anything in your body, you're putting so much spiritual food within your body. And I love doing that. It's a cleanse for me as well. When I feel overwhelmed, when I feel like there's just a lot going on in my life, I feel a lot of times that's the time that I need to like take a step back and reset and fast for a little bit. And so I enjoy doing that a few times a year. The other one is kind of the opposite, and that actually is gathering. And I know in The Celebrations of Discipline by Richard Foster, great book, everyone should read it. And yes, yeah, and I don't know exactly what it's called, but there is a spiritual discipline of community and gathering together, and I love that so much, because again, kind of with my personality, if I am going through difficult times, I will isolate myself. So it's hard for me personally, and my personality and my weaknesses and strength, to do isolation well. I need to do almost the opposite and go into places of community and intentional community. And sometimes that does look like having a meal together and cooking food and being with friends and family, and but intentional people and having intentional conversations. And the Lord has had to push me to do that and be vulnerable with people in moments like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, very good. Who has a question?
How did you, like, this can be for all of you, like, how did you know you were, like, called to ministry in a way? Because I get that, like, some of you grew up in the, like, around it, and, like, having parents that do that, but, like, I feel like I've been around it forever, but I still don't know, like, oh, is that, like, my calling? Like, I know it's, like, answering a call, like, we're all called to, you know, spread the gospel and stuff, but, like, how do you know you want to, like, spread it to that point of, like, going overseas and, you know, like, just spreading the word, like.
Good question.
Yeah.
Very good.
I have an analogy that I'll try to keep short, because I still haven't made it very efficient yet. Growing up in the UK, I got to see a lot of history about how a lord's manor worked, like how the servitude in the household worked, and I learned a lot from it. A lot of the language you see in scripture and stuff like that is reflected a lot in how people actually behaved. And you have a lot of servants in the Lord's house. They have jobs. Some of them have specific jobs that they do every day. Some of them are just over other people, but they all work in the Lord's banner, and they all have responsibilities that they take care of. But the Lord is not over every single one of them, like every day asking, did you do this thing, and did you do this thing? They just have general responsibilities. They also have free time. They also have choices that they can make. They can do this or that. They can ask to be doing something else if they don't want to be doing what they do. For example, if the butler is the head servant, he's going to have responsibilities to check in on things, but during his downtime, he might choose to do something leisurely, or he might go into the servant's kitchen and polish silverware. It's like, does it need to be done? Not necessarily, but he can choose to. And the Lord is not over him constantly saying like, did you get my memo? Are you still being a butler? Like, he knows he trusts him. But there might be a point where like the bell rings and he has to go up to the Lord's office and the Lord asks him what he's up to. And he says, hey, I've got this thing going on. I need somebody to go to this other Lord's manor and represent me because I can't go there. I've got business. Can you go to this manor and do some, like, we're making allies or whatever. And then the butler goes there representing him and he spends time there and then he comes back. And that's not like, hey, guess what? You're no longer a butler. You're going to this Lord's manor and that's your job for 2 weeks. It's like, no, he has responsibilities, but he has choices he can make. I think the thing I have taken out of that is that we're all work in the Lord's house, and there are responsibilities that are given to us, but we were not born into those responsibilities, right? We're just born into the Lord's house. And the Lord is a good Lord, and he's not, our life's purpose isn't to complete a job. It's to serve the Lord. It's to be in the Lord's house, right? And so sometimes I think the Lord calls us up to his office and asks us to do something specific. And when that time comes, we do that specific thing, whether it's for a time or for an extended period. But I think what we get misconstrued about calling is we have this idea that we're not doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing until we find that calling and we commit ourselves to it. But the truth is, as long as you're in the house and you're serving and you're being faithful and you're spending time with the Lord, you're not missing anything. And it's possible the Lord won't even give you a calling in the concept that we have it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts from you guys?
I think I had to learn and relearn and learn and relearn and learn again. Just the fact that ministry is not like a specific role, and how to say this, it's not just this or that in the church and nothing else.
Yeah.
Something the Lord corrected me a few years ago. When I'm not doing things like this, I work in a pecan factory back home. If you want your pecans, come to me. But the Lord corrected me a lot because I was looking towards what was to come, hopefully, Lord willing. Like even going and becoming a missionary and being sent out. Like those were things that were beginning to stir within my heart, but it was easy to lose sight of the present and the opportunity that I had at my job, at my workplace, to reflect the light and be the salt. And it was almost like ministry, whereas like a role as a pastor, as a missionary, evangelist, whatever, became that I had to fit that role in order to begin to do ministry. But the Lord corrected me and reminded me and taught me that it's not all about the title. It's not all about the position. Those things may come, and I've been having to walk out like step by step. I think that would be the biggest advice, would just to be put one foot in front of the other. And it's easier said than done. But I think in my life I'm truly to the place where it's like, okay, I know that my posture is right with the Lord, and he honors that, and he'll take me from whatever I'm doing right now and put me in whatever role. If it continues to be serving in that pecan factory and just reflecting the light that is the Lord, great. If it's sending me to Hungary, great. But I think I knew that he was calling me into something like becoming a missionary and going out, when I realized that I couldn't just hold on to the comfort and the security. And that's not like, everybody's different in that, but for me, like my security and my comfort was here in what I could do at my job. Yeah. And it began to stir towards something that, you're right, Lord, I don't know what's ahead. Like I don't know when I'm gonna get there, but I'm just trying to walk by faith step by step and then giving it back to the Lord. I could go into a story about Isaac and Abraham, and I won't, but Abraham had to give Isaac back up to the Lord and offered him up, even though God offered Abraham Isaac. So what God offered him, at first Abraham had to be willing to give it back, and trying to reach that place.
Good. Good ladies.
What came to my mind is that sometimes we put ministry as part of our calling, when our calling, according to the Bible, is to follow Jesus. And that can look in many different ways. And like the definition of ministry is serving. So you can be, I don't know, like working an office job, but at the same time, like serving Jesus through like ministering Him to other people. You can be here at Emmanuel, and you can be already doing ministry by serving Jesus and serving others around you. So I think everything becomes with the practice of like, okay, I'm gonna follow Jesus. Like I know that my purpose and my calling is to follow Jesus, and I'm gonna serve Him. Like I'm gonna decide to like in my day to day like practice to serve Him. I think like the rest like would just come, like opportunities would come to you, and like sometimes like we're just like too focused on like what's gonna come next that we forget, or like we just lose sense of what the Lord is asking for us to do right now, or we just seek Him for what's gonna come next instead of just like seeking Him to know Him. So I don't know if that answered your question.
At the end of Matthew chapter 9, I know you have said this multiple times. At the end of Matthew chapter 9, it says that Jesus went throughout the villages and the cities, and He was teaching in the synagogues, and He was healing the sick and casting out demons. And it says, this is my favorite verse in the whole Bible, it says, when He saw the people, He had compassion for them, for they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Therefore go into the harvest field. And then that famous verse that we talked about, that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. But my favorite verse in the whole Bible is where it says, when Jesus saw the people, He had compassion for them. And I don't like to put ministry in a box and different things like that, because I think as a disciple of Christ, which I would assume that we would all be, we would all be following after Jesus, and we would all be looking at people and having the same compassion as Him. But our compassion may be different. Like I know for a fact that my compassion has always been to Europe, and it's always been to the people in Europe, and planting churches and raising up new leaders and discipling Europeans, not just Americans, but Europeans, to be leading the European churches and being European missionaries as well. That's always been my desire. Even when I struggled with my faith, that was always my passion, or that's where I had compassion, and even a burden, or even you can say a holy frustration. A lot of times is what I say. That's my holy frustration, is that the people of Europe are often overlooked and often don't get the same resources or the same attention as other people. Now that's not other people's holy frustration, or that's not their compassion. They may be empathetic towards it, but they're not compassionate. They're not moved to that. It may be just completely different. And so I think when you're trying to figure out what to do with your life, whether it be to go move to this country, or to stay home, or move to this state, or to take this job or this full-time pastor position, whatever it is, you have to be moved by your compassion. But you also have to be willing to see people the way Jesus saw people, because it said when Jesus saw the people, He had compassion. And so part of it also is we have to take off our blinders that we oftentimes have, and to actually see people, and to see things outside of our own circumstances and our own lives and our own problems, but to actually see people. So we know kind of where God is leading that compassion and leading those burdens and those holy frustrations. Because if you think about it, even non-believers have compassion. Yeah. Even non-believers have frustration. So that's just a human thing. As humans, we have those different things. But because we are Christ followers, we can allow the Lord to lead us in what that is going to look like. And if that means being a full-time pastor here in the States, if it means being a missionary, if it means being a school teacher, awesome. If that's where your compassion is, that's where I want you to be. I don't want you to be across the world if your compassion is here. Honestly, truthfully, I don't want you to be a missionary if God truly called you to be a full-time pastor in Alabama, or if God called you to be a school teacher in Chicago. Like, we need to just be acting within the areas that God has given us that burden and given us that frustration.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, we got time for at least one more question, maybe two. So who's next?
Mine's not really a question, I wanted to add on to that, because I know my friend Rob here mentioned of like being involved. I hear a lot of talk of, especially here at Emmanuel, of, oh yeah, I was raised in the church and I was brought up like that, or like my family's either pastors or just involved in the church like that too. I feel like if I was in one of those chairs, I would say God gives out gifts to certain people in ways He can use them the best way possible. And even it's like giving someone a struggle, it may not seem good during that time, but it's like good things come out of struggles all the time. And I feel like I'll give myself for example. I was an atheist until 3 years ago today actually, and those past 18 years is why I'm so confident as a Christian now to talk to non-believers, because I feel like I can go to a church and like preach all day to Christians, but it's like I feel like for me there's no point. Like that's not using my skills to the best skill set. It would be better for me to go somewhere else and use those 18 years of struggling. I wasn't struggling. I had a good 18 years, but it's like without God, it's not as max as it could be, right? And so using those 18 years of, I would say, oh, well, God doesn't exist. There's this way, there's that way. Like I can use every argument I used in the past 18 years for my last 3 years now of, there's nothing you could possibly say to me now where I wouldn't have to come back for it, basically. And also with the question of, oh, how do you know if that's your calling into it? In those past, I'm 21 years old now, those past 21 years, out of all these feelings, I'd say, everything I've achieved, everything I've gone through, the best feeling I've ever gotten in the past 21 years was when I went to Colorado and I took a ministries job. And I was a Christian for like 2 years at that point. I was like, okay, I don't know everything, like one of y'all said, you don't have to know everything. It was the fact of, it felt so much more fulfilling that I was doing what felt like God's work more than anything else. It didn't feel like, am I doing this to make myself a better Christian? No, I was doing this for the help of others who, it almost felt like I was like looking at a younger version of myself. Like I wish I had someone who was in my shoes at the time, if that makes sense. I know I'm wording that poorly, but kind of using what I have as a gift for myself to reflect on others. I feel like that's something others can be born in Christ with having a good family and good roots, and then use that. But then it's also like, if you didn't have that, use that to an advantage as well to make the best out of it.
Good. All right, just time for a quick question and brief response. Anybody? Okay, each of you just, were you raising your hand? You thought about it. Let's just go around one more time and give just like a minute of just a good takeaway line, suggestions that you would give to us about, hey, how can we live this life better and continue preparing ourselves, living it out in the present, but also preparing ourselves for the future that God has for us.
I'll go first because I'm in the middle. I would just say enjoy this time. There's a lot that, I look back upon my time, in your shoes, and I just wish I would have taken like a breath and just enjoyed the present. We live in like a culture that's so microwavable that wants things like that, but it truly is one of those things where if I could have just done anything differently to an extent, I just would have tried to enjoy the people I was around, the place I was at, everything that I had, you know, because you only get this time once. But know that every decision that you make, both good and bad, I believe the Lord, if your heart is postured correctly, is using to further make you more like Him. So that would be my encouragement: is enjoy this time, but also don't just let it slip. And then you reach graduation or you reach the end of the semester and you're like, man, I wish this would have went different. I could have put more of an emphasis on this.
That's good. That's good. All right, we got time for maybe one more of you doing this. So who wants to give us just a quick minute suggestion?
Okay. I would just say, like, the Lord delights in you. Like, He does. There's nothing that you can do that you can't outperform for Him. Like, He already just like loves you and adores you, and that's something that I'm learning as someone who's like a workaholic who's trying to always gain extra love from people. But the Lord, no matter, you know, if you went into full-time ministry, no matter if you became a stay-at-home parent, no matter what you do with your life, like, the Lord loves you and delights in you, and that alone and you alone is enough. Like, that's enough. If you never went and planted a church and did crusades and anything, like, God still delights completely in you and who you are, and learning to like accept part of that. Now, that doesn't mean be lazy and not do what He wants you to do, but the Lord at the end of the day just delights in you and loves you and is obsessed with you and everything. And that's something I'm trying to learn and trying to get other people to understand. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to strive for His love or His acceptance. Like, you alone, who you are, and your personality and your background and your history and all of that is enough for Him to love you and to be so obsessed with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We can turn that off now. Thank you guys.